Good morning, traders. It's 8:01 a.m. Chicago time on Wednesday, the 26th of April, 2023. This is episode number 2456. Thanks for joining me today. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. All right. All right, all right, all right. So what do we have today? Yesterday, breakout. I don't want to say breakout from balance because we just broke out to the edge of balance, but we're still a breakout. Um, this morning, the S&P is holding on to that 4100. It's currently trading at 4106. We're up about 12 points, 31 basis points. The Dow's doing the same thing. It's staying above the 33,700, 33,650 area, and then the Nasdaq is battling underneath the 13,000, but it's up 1.12% on pretty strong results from Google and other major players. The Russell is off 3.6. It's the weakest player here in the US. And in Europe, it's been a pretty active earnings session so far. And we're seeing really strong movement by the crypto complex this morning. You can see down there the Bitcoin futures are up 8.31%. So they're whipping around quite a bit. They're still under 30,000, but they're well above the 17,000 that we had just a short few months ago. The market posture as we sit here, except for really the Nasdaq, which is up 1%, the rest are really mixed. This morning we had Humana, Boeing, Thermo Fisher, Synovus, and many others, ADP, and so on and so on and so forth. A familiar name in there that announced this morning, CME Group. After the close, we get Meta, which I thought was yesterday, but I was wrong. Waste Management, C.H. Robinson for logistics, Aflac for insurance, and so on and so forth. So the earnings calendar is in full force right now. That's really where the market focus is. The risk overhangs currently lie with First Republic, which is at risk of being seized by the FDIC. Advisors are lining up potential purchasers of new First Republic stock. They're looking to bail this bank out, and this is really a drag on the Russell, as you can see. McCarthy thinks this is the House Majority Leader. McCarthy changes debt ceiling limit bill in bid to secure votes. Does not have the votes yet, and is going to have to continue to compromise. That's the risk overhang. That's the other risk overhang, is that we may end up with this very highly politicized, as it always is, debt limit bill. The problem with this is not even the majority leader this time potentially has control of it. So not only in the past, what you had is one side fighting for a purpose or fighting for certain terms or whatever, but they have the votes, and so they can just play the game and fight. What we have now is they're fighting for certain terms, but then the person doing the negotiating may not have those terms locked in with their own party. So it just creates a lot of risk overhang for the markets, especially for treasuries, and so that's likely to start getting priced in. Durable goods orders came in today, came in pretty strong. I believe it was 3.2 versus 0.7. Yeah, durable goods orders month on month for March came in at 3.2%, plus 3.2% versus 0.7% expected. Transports came in at 0.3%. the expectation was negative 0.2. So those are pretty strong. Wholesale inventories came in weaker, 0.1% versus 0.2%. Retail inventories ex autos came in at 0.4%, much stronger than the 0.1% expected, and so on and so on and so forth. So that's the big release today. In Germany, they got GfK consumer confidence, which was a little bit better than what the consensus was. The consensus was a contraction of 27.9, and the actuals negative 25.7. And then looking ahead, really, we have Windows at 9 right now, and we have crude oil stock changes 10:30. For those of you who are trading crude, the stock change is expected to be a draw of 1.486 million, and gasoline is expected to be a draw of 933,000 barrels. With distill, it's expecting to be a draw of 839,000 barrels. So if you're keeping an eye, that's what we've got. Then in the afternoon, we got the Bank of Canada minutes and the 5-year note auction. Looking at the S&P, the S&P is in a multi-distribution profile. The S&P has a P-shaped, and a P-shape that's not really a P-shape. We'll go over that in a minute. But the volume is great today, 262,000 contracts. It's the highest overnight volume in a while. And the inventory is 92% long, meaning out of the 262,000 contracts, approximately 92% of that occurred above yesterday's close. So the inventory is long versus the prior session, and the range is 27 points, which is pretty decent compared to recent standards. The point of control 41.13. Overall, the point of control is squeezed up against the top of the range. The low is 40.89. We're still battling, as I said earlier, battling the 4100 area. So let's look at the facts, just the facts, man. So when I said we broke out to the edge of balance, I mean, we fought the 4100 here down into the 4096, and yesterday finished at 4093. At 4093 with a low of somewhere around 4092. Okay, so we squeezed through that 4100 low, but we are not really moving away fast here. Let me change colors. This is not the right color I want to use. Let's go to yellow. We're not really rejecting this 4100 swiftly. The overnight session did push to the single print, exactly to the single print at 4116 in the overnight session. But that was right after the cash close and within the period of the earnings releases, and then just on the reopen, it pushed right back to the top of the single prints that we got yesterday in H period, and it's now, you know, kind of lingered here up here overnight, creating a P-shaped profile. But then we have a P-shaped profile, but then we moved lower and pushed to 40.89. We're kind of holding steady in the middle here in the overnight session. So we're really accepting this point of control from yesterday. Well, it's not really a point of control in the volume. The volume point of control is at 4130, but in TPOs, the 4104 is right where the point of control is. That's the highest number of half-hour bars overlapping, with the settlement just beneath. And in my view, we are still in balance, and what it does today is going to be important, because is it going to revert back to balance? Are we testing? No, I'm talking about the P-shaped overnight, not a B-shaped in yesterday's session. Yesterday's session was really a double distribution profile. In any case, we've moved to the edge of balance, but we really haven't, you know, this isn't an initiative selling spree. It's an initiative selling spree from 30 to 35, right? This is where we've been kind of holding for the last 3 days. We broke away And what looked like a really nice breakout, as I commented in the Mavens channel on Convergent Trading yesterday. If you're short, this is one you would want to hold on to. And it did work out that way, and it did push through to 4100, but overall we're just on the edge of balance here, so let's not get too excited. Let's not get too excited about what's going on, because we're still inside of this large balance range, right? We basically stopped right at the low volume node here. So let's look at this in another way. Boop. All right, this looks like a mess. It is not. What I've done here is I'm highlighting, let's get rid of these. These aren't relevant anymore. They're just noise. So we have been in this downward channel inside of balance, as we've discussed over the last few days. If we shift this profile forward, walk it all the way to the end of this day and have it recalculating. We'll see that we have been in this downward channel, but overall we've had really good balance here, right? Very mature balance. With the point of control in this 4150 something area, 54 or so area, 53. That's where the point of control is, in this area. And what we did yesterday is we moved away from that point of control. It looked initiative, but when we look at the bigger picture, because we don't want to be stuck in tick charts as career traders, when we look at the big picture, we see that really it's just testing the extreme. So this morning, I'm expecting it to squeeze, to try to squeeze. I'm expecting that it would be looking to stimulate buying this morning. But because of the way we finished yesterday, this is a double distribution profile here. Because of the way we finished yesterday, it finished at the low with a pretty strong ledge at 93, right? Volume drop-off ledge. And it finished at the low. So my expectation is this is an impulsive day down, and I'm expecting that today it would take out that low from yesterday at 93, or whatever it was, 92.25, I think. So I'm expecting it to at least check, stick its hand down and see if it will, if it can stimulate more selling, and if it cannot stimulate more selling, then what we could have after the test down, and I do have this green bar here, which is a support bar in this 40.86 to 88 area. This is the next support, is what I'm expecting. The one below that's in the 61.60 area. I'm expecting that if it gets down here, takes out yesterday's low, and it doesn't do it initiatively, in other words, if it doesn't open and break with volume in an open drive, then it's likely to test down and become responsive right back up into the 41.16. You can see this is another resistance band here. This is another key area, the red shaded area. That's the area we held overnight. I put these bands on yesterday at the close, and then above there we have 41.38 or so. 41.35 really is the next key area. So 35, 15, 16 here. 15, 16. We do have one at the 4100, but I didn't want to put it on here because it would just be noisy. And then we have one at 88. The low is 89.25 overnight. Yesterday's low is 92.25, and then beneath there we have 61. So that's the price map within our sigma ranges for today. So the question today is very important. The question today is, do we open up here, get responsive into the 16, try to squeeze, unable, and then start to accelerate down and finish the auction from yesterday by pushing into 88 at least, or taking out the low? Or do we open, break down, test the low first, see if we can get some initiative selling, and if we don't, we get a higher low, and then we have now a breakout trade to the upside, at which point we target the 41.15.16. Those are the two key kind of early plays that I have in my playbook for today. And it's up to the market to decide, am I going to get initiative below 88? In other words, am I going to trend just like we did yesterday? That's initiative action yesterday. We're moving away from the middle of this auction. We're initiating selling away from the balance. Or are we going to be responsive, which is this kind of, to me, is more of the first scenario. The primary scenario is it's likely to push down, test, consolidate, squeeze back up. The secondary scenario is this one, where we open, and because we've had a pretty decent bounce, we took out the full session mid at 41.02. We took out the full session VWAP at 41.05. So it looks relatively bullish-ish with the overnight point of control 41.13. Do we just squeeze higher and then fight the 16 and maybe squeeze a little bit above that and then fall through and end up at the low end of the range? This is what we need to see. There's no way to know what it's going to do. Anybody that tells you otherwise is a liar. We just don't know what the third force in the market is, and the third force is those people we can't count. So that's what we've got, okay? Again, 88.61, and then we fall into the gap zone between 32 and I believe it was 01 or 02, I think, down here, okay, to fill this in. So that's a big area where we had balance, and then we have a actually the gap zone is up here. Let me fix that. The gap zone is up here. That's where the top of the auction is. The internal gap is 02. So it's 40.32 to 40.10 is the next kind of key area. You can see the blunt profile through here, but as I bring in more bars, this profile actually takes a more prominent shape, and you get 40.26 or so in there in the middle. Okay, so that's the S&P. Let's look at the Nasdaq real quick. The Nasdaq is in a different situation. The Nasdaq has gapped, so I'm taking this as the imbalance price, okay, as opposed to pushing to back here. The Nasdaq has gapped right there, tested higher, higher high, pretty deep low, lower low, and it's been sitting sideways. The Nasdaq is in fact initiative from balance. So the Nasdaq's actually a lot weaker, and it finished right at the low, but it had, you know, really important earnings yesterday, Soft, Google, Alphabet, and so on, and it's kind of pushing the other way. The Nasdaq's key resistance is right there in the 12,980 to about 12,995 zone. So 80 to 95. It's currently trading at 12,946. The Nasdaq's pulling back to right here. I'm expecting, because of this action, again, the way this Nasdaq is, this is initiative down or impulsive down, I'm expecting it to put in a lower low, but it leaves us with a weird situation with earnings, and it looks like it's got some strength to it. So we want to watch early on in Nasdaq to see what does it do with this resistance band right here at the 13,000. If it cannot take it over, then it might poke the 13,000, but if it gets initiative below the 13,000 after testing that resistance band, then that's a short, and that short is a gap to settle trade. And to me, that's a pretty solid setup. That's one of my A+ setups. It provides about 90 points of range if we can get up and test that band. You know, I don't sit here with an offer. I'm looking for it to test the band, impulse, pull back, and then looking for the continuation. 70 to 90 points right there in the Nasdaq. So here's where crude is. Crude, we've talked about this quite a bit. Crude, expecting it to finish filling in the gap. Crude expected to really battle in the 77 zone. You could see yesterday it settled at 77.07, and it's holding steady. And then this morning, it is gapping. The crude is gapping down, has tried to be responsive into 76.62, and is unable in the overnight session. And I'm expecting it to move lower into the 75.70. So the 570 is still expected in crude. And then I'm not expecting it to hold there. I don't see it bouncing in this area. I'm expecting crude to start squeezing lower into the 75 even, and then things get pretty exciting if it doesn't hold that 75 even. It starts to push through into the below the 72 and potentially running. Russell still the slacker. Russell still pretty good initiative selling yesterday. The Russell's held a low of about 1782-ish or so, but it's still really imbalanced. So the Russell hasn't really moved away from what it has done. Pretty decent selling yesterday in the Russell, but it didn't really materially change the auction. Okay, so this is where this stands. I'll leave you with the relative delta. Relative delta in the ES, relatively weak. We're just selling off here. Looks like news event. Faber says sources continue to suggest White House and Treasury are unwilling to step up pressure on banks to purchase First Republic assets to repair balance sheet. This is kind of squeezing. Remember, this is one of the two big overhangs. This banking, First Republic, and then the second one is the debt ceiling, and we just hit one of these. We just hit one of these on the news feed, so that's causing us to sell off here a little bit. You can see large lots participating with very large lots here. Small lots are buying. Small lots are taking the opposite side. The delta is overall negative. But again, I'm still looking for this low to be tested. Again, the rules for impulses is that we generally, more often than not, we break the impulse low. And yesterday's impulse low is at 92.25. Okay? It's a lot to cover, I know. I'll leave you with that. Don't forget today's futures radio show. Today's futures radio show is at 12 p.m. Eastern. You can go to edgeclear.com/deli to enter for the two Bose headset giveaways. I think the headsets are like $300 or $400 a piece. The deadline for the giveaway is 11 Eastern. Go to edgeclear.com/deli to participate. The show, it's not at 1 p.m. Sorry. The show is at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The deadline for the giveaway is 11 a.m. Again, edgeclear.com/deli. Take care.